Hi there. You've probably heard about personal branding a million and one times, from those folks on Twitter who write really long threads to even your granny. But if you're like me with no idea how to actually build a brand, well, welcome to Artwork. My name is Toba. Today on the show, we have Christine Meintjes, an award-winning photographer, podcast host, and creative entrepreneur based in South Africa. We'll be chatting about the steps to take to build a personal brand identity and the role of crafting the right narrative. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Christine.
Hi, Toba. Thanks so much for having me.
So jumping into the main conversation for today, would you mind describing what personal branding is and then what it is not, and maybe provide examples of times when you've experienced the term being misused?
Personal branding for me comes from looking internally for a source of inspiration before you look externally. So looking at things like, who are you? What is your personal mission in life? What are your personal values? What is your vision? And what do you want to bring to the world that you feel you can add value? I remember as a young designer in those years when people say, I want to start a business. I mean, the first thing we as designers jump to was like, what's the logo going to look like? A logo and what your brand mark looks like is not branding. Branding is the full holistic experience. It's the storytelling component that pulls through the golden thread through everything, from who you say you are, what the world thinks you are, what the visuals look like, what the voice is that you're communicating with. Is it formal? Is it informal? Is it relatable? I think if you're going to do personal branding, I mean, you cannot do it without the person, and the person is you. So who are you, first of all? What is your personal mission in life? And that mission will also start rolling out into your value systems. And things for me that always stood out was like, I am utterly obsessed with quality, and for someone else that's maybe not important, for them. And it doesn't mean that their product is substandard to mine. It just means that for them, something like human interaction or human connection is more important. So they'll focus more on relationship building, etc., etc. An extroverted photographer would probably focus more on an element of fun, and that will then become part of their brand, where as an introvert, I'm very serious. And that's just my way of processing the world. And so that became very much part of my Christine Meintjes brand. My Christine Meintjes brand became quite serious. It became, the logo and the mark that I then developed over time also became, let's just say, it's not so much fun. It leans more towards like, we're down to business, And now that I'm a mom, there's elements that have changed in my brand purely because I see the world differently. So I think you have to be open to the idea that your brand will change and that it is okay for your brand to change over time. Maybe don't change your logo every week. That's maybe not a good idea. Yes, I think, the outflow of the components I just mentioned, like your mission, your values, that will flow out into an external flow into the world. So you have to think of like, how does that happen? Like visually, how does that happen? And then you start working on the logo, on the tone of voice. Like, how are you going to talk to your audience? How are you going to, again, practical example, like are your Instagram posts or your newsletters that you send out to your audience or your website copy, is that going to be informal? Is it going to be formal? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to are you going to add slang to it to make it like cool and trendy, or are you going to keep it a little bit more serious? So things like image selection and curation, and even just like an image of yourself, your about page, for instance, the videos you take, are you going to be okay with no makeup selfie, or is it always going to look like studio images? Because at the end of the day, the branding is about the storytelling. What story are you telling to the world, and can people relate to that? And I think it's important as a start out brand to know that this will relate to certain people and it will not relate to other people. But as they say, it's a good thing, because you need to focus on the people and spend time on the people that actually relate to them. I would say don't spend too much time on the naysayers and all the people that are actually just trying to kill the brand. Spend time on the people that are actually engaging with it in a positive way and understand why they're engaging, what are their needs. Yeah, and in that way, I think you'll start crafting the story of your brand. I don't think it's something that you can pre-design. I think it's something that you start designing and it evolves over time.
I'm curious about what are some mistakes that you find creatives making when it comes to building out their personal brands?
Be open to learn and also build a network around you of people that are not necessarily your love support structure, but people from an industry that has your back from crafting your career. Because I think at the end of the day, you don't just want to be cuddled and loved. You also want to be an expert in what you do. You want to be an expert because for you to become an authority in your industry, which is what personal branding is all about. And it doesn't mean you've got the loudest voice or the prettiest Instagram. It means that people trust you. It means that people want to listen to you. And that does not come by force. That comes by earning the right to speak to them. And that comes from a place where you have gone through the journey that was very hard. And so if that is the journey that you want to take as a personal brand, I think you would have to build a community around you that can support you. And I think, now we have all these amazing things like podcasts and me and you connecting from two different places in the world, and all the tools are there. You just have to use them.
Hi, we'll get back to our guest in a quick second, but I wanted to tell you a bit about how you can grow your creative practice with Paystack. What if every month you received a predictable income from your biggest fans? You can make this happen using Paystack subscriptions. Create a fast, simple payment page through which customers can subscribe for exclusive content or other perks as part of a paid subscription. Create your free account and learn more at paystack.com/AWW. And now, back to the show.
This might seem pretty obvious, and it probably is. But would you mind chatting about the importance of building a personal brand? What exactly does it do for the creator?
I could just talk from personal experience, but what it did for me is it helped me to have confidence in what I do, and it helped me to not just feel, but to honestly put something of value into the world. And whatever that is, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, for me, it added value to my life. What I learned through the journey of building for instance, a photography business, when I started sharing that journey with other people, and by building a business that was kind of new at the time, I think it gave other people the permission to do the same, to be a front runner, to be someone that breaks ground in some way or form, whether it's like something very small or something very big. I think it's one of the most beautiful things that one can do, because it gives other people whether it's the courage or whether it's the permission to go and do the same. And I think that for me has always been part of, to know that it's not necessarily about me, but it is about what's being birthed in the world.
But are there any tips that you particularly use to make your brand stand out? Essentially, how do you elevate your brand from all of the noise?
An important element for me is to not try and compete with the noise. Because on the one hand, yeah, sure, naturally I am competing. But if I'm focusing on competing, then I would constantly be producing content for the sake of content. And I think volume versus quality is an important element that we need to look at. And so if you have the capacity to create exceptional content in volume, great, amazing, then that's probably the thing you should go for. But if you do not have the capacity, I would strongly recommend that you focus on quality content versus mass content.
One of the elements you spoke about was storytelling. So I'd like to focus on that for a minute. I think it's such a powerful tool in connecting with others. So how can we use storytelling to drive the growth of a personal brand?
A big element of the storytelling that was important for me, and that I feel helped me to build a brand, was building something that relates to my audience. So if you choose to do personal branding, there definitely has to be some element of personal. Now, whether that is sharing about your family as deep as, family life, or whether it is just something you went through as a designer or content creator, even if it is just a little element of showing the audience how and what it takes to create what you do, giving them a little bit of insight into the behind the scenes. I think it's important to build that strong personal conversation. Otherwise, it becomes very corporate. And I think the world wants an element of realness. If, for instance, it doesn't sit well with you to share a lot of like your personal journey, your personal life, maybe a strategy could be to include more of your customer's journey, more of your customer's story, behind the scenes of someone using your product, or someone giving maybe a testimony of working with you and your services. And I think like the human element doesn't have to come from you as a founder.
Well, thank you very much. So where can people find you?
So there's a few places people can find me. Firstly, on social media, I'm on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram. So C Meintjes, I'm sure you'll share it. That's my personal Instagram.
Awesome sauce. That's all, folks. Thank you very much for joining us today on the show. If you have any questions, comments, or even things that you disagree with, then discuss it with us in the comment section. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Remember to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this episode, and if you did not, watch it again and then share with 2 other people. Alrighty, until I come your way next time, take care and bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
We're out. Oh wait, we're not done. Sorry.